What frustrates me is that you see these really good agents who look at real estate as that opportunity to build that life that they want. And everyone comes in so excited. And then they just get beat down and beat down and beat down. And they don't know what to do. Whether they have one bad client and all of a sudden they feel like they're the worst real estate agents ever. What agents get wrong is they don't spend time really trying to understand how does their mind work. If you took the time to just sit down and go, okay, how am I built? What has gotten me to this point? You'll understand how you should build your business. A lot of agents in the beginning, they just start implementing, start taking what people tell them to do and start throwing it in. But when your internal system doesn't match up with what you're being told, it doesn't matter how much more information you get, it's never going to work.
Hi, I'm Tim, real estate agent, veteran, and author of The Freedom Agent. You're listening to the Freedom Agent podcast, where we help agents stop being the bottleneck in their business. Through conversations, stories, and real strategies, we'll show you how to scale smarter and finally take back your time. All right, everybody, welcome here to the Freedom Agent podcast. I am super excited to get Michael Opyd on here. He is a real estate agent and real estate coach. He's been in real estate for 15 years, currently has his license over here at RE/MAX, but he's really been killing it from the Great Recession, right? The Great Recession back in 2009 and building his way up. We're super excited to have him here on the show and get going. Michael, how you doing?
I'm great, Tim. I appreciate the opportunity, man. Excited to share some good stuff with your audience for sure.
All right. Well, that is awesome. So let's jump right into our first question. Walk me through, because this will be a good one. Walk me through how you got into real estate, and when was that moment that everything just really started to click for you?
Yeah. So my family brought me up in that traditional, like, you got to get a college degree, you got to go join corporate America, be an employee. And I followed that route, which made my parents very happy. So when in 2 years, I moved out to Boston. I'm from the Midwest, from Chicago, moved out to Boston, just needed to get out of Dodge, did corporate America there for a couple of years. And I just realized it was not for me. You know, I saw what corporate America was. I saw what I wanted to do I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew it wasn't that. So I just quit during the Great Recession, during the housing bust. And I moved back home, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I seriously was lost. And my cousin, who was a real estate agent, you know, I was a finance guy, I had a finance background. So I actually just had a question about REITs, real estate investment trusts. I had no idea what they were. And I called her. She told me what they were. And then we got into the whole conversation about real estate, being a real estate agent. And that was it. It was like I had found the Holy Grail. I knew what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I just jumped headfirst in with no safety net, basically. My first few years, you could imagine, it was 2009. I had, I didn't have a ton of help. I had nothing, essentially. You know, my cousin was helping me. I joined her team, but I mean, it was 2009. No one was buying, no one was selling. And if they were, they wasn't going to be from a new agent. So my first few years were, you could argue, brutal, I would say. It was pretty much survival mode is what I was in. Like, survival and learn mode was what I did. And it took me till about year 3, actually, to close my first sale. And it was like a really cheap, like $62,500 short sale, which also took a while to close. If anyone back then remembers, short sales and foreclosures were everywhere. They were a disaster. They were a nightmare. No one knew how to deal with them. And that was my first sale. And it, obviously took me a while to get there, but started building from that point on, and eventually went on to be a top producer. I've done somewhere around, like, I don't really sell as much full time anymore because I'm focused on the coaching. But over the course of my career, about 75 million just by myself. Never had an assistant, never had anyone. It's just one man band here, and it made it work. Let's just say.
Man, that's impressive numbers right there. Well, that's awesome. When would you say in that where it really started to click? When was that moment? Do you remember?
It was interesting. So my click it was actually a motivational type click, and it was pretty cool. So I had been learning the whole time, and then what I guess for me personally, I'm one of those people that like once things click, it just boom. I'm just so razor focused. And it actually, even though it doesn't, my stats don't show it, a few weeks into deciding to be a real estate agent, I had this whole thing play out, and I'll try to share how this happened because it was with my mom. Okay, so my mom's
Okay.
old school, like I said, get the job, be an employee, and I was living at home. So thankfully, my parents were graceful enough to let me move back in. And I had I had my door closed in my room. I'm working on something, and I just remember the door opened up, and I could just see my mom, and she's standing there, and she always knocked. She never just walked in, so I knew this was different. She just had this look of just like fury behind her eyes, like she was mad. And I'm like, "What the heck did I do?" And that's when she asked me. She's like, "Are you going to get a job?" And this was like, a few weeks after I moved home. And I'm thinking to myself, I got it. And I actually said it to her. I'm like, I got a job. I'm a real estate agent. And that was the wrong thing to say to her at that time. That was beyond the wrong thing. 'Cause she looked at me and it just got her eyes got redder, her face got redder, and she just leaned in and she goes, "You don't have a salary. You don't have an effing job." And just stormed out, closed the door. I had this like hanging mirror that flung up in slow motion. I thought it was going to shatter everywhere. Thankfully, it didn't. But that was the moment for me. I was just like, "Oh, oh no, I'm proving you wrong." And that's
Yeah.
just who I am. So that was like the spark that lit it. And I think before then, I wasn't really sure what I needed to do. It's new agents. There's not a lot of direction for new agents. And that was when I kind of said, okay, I'm going all in on this. And even though it still took me a while, I did a lot of rentals during that time just to learn. I spent, oh man, insane amount of hours just studying the market, learning, surviving. And then that was kind of like really where it started. And then the momentum built from there. And then I got on, I would say probably really took off when I got on the Young Professionals Network Board at the Chicago Association of Realtors. So
Uh-huh.
the YPN, they're around the country. There's different ones, but I got on that, built connections with people. And that was kind of when things really started to, on the production side, really start to pay off for all the hard work I've been putting in before that.
I've got some good questions coming from you, especially as a real estate coach. So I'm going to throw them over your way. You ready?
Yeah, yeah.
All
Let's
right.
do it,
So
man.
what's the one thing most agents get wrong that you figured out?
Hmm. I love that you start with this, actually. I love you start with this. I think, the way the industry is designed, especially coaching, and it's not a knock on coaching, it's just everyone is so focused on the outcome. They're so
Mhm.
focused on an outcome. How come I don't have more clients? How come I don't have more sales? How come I don't have more production? Like, and the problem is when you only focus on outcomes, you're not focused on how to get the outcomes, right? And what I see actually is that most agents don't start internally. All right. This is like it's so important you start internally. Like what happens is, you get thrown all of this information, right? So I joke the industry doesn't have an information problem. There's plenty of information, there's plenty of knowledge. Brokerages are going to throw it at you, team leaders are going to throw it at you, and they're going to throw all these things at you. And your job is to kind of like see what works. And this is why agents struggle so much, is because they're trying this, they're trying that, they're trying this. And like maybe someone's got a lead system, someone's got a CRM you have to use, or whatever it is. There's systems and all this stuff out there. But what agents get wrong is they don't spend time in the beginning really trying to understand, how does their mind work? How do they
Mm,
operate? Right? Because if you
mm,
took the time to just sit down and go, okay, how am I built? Like, what has gotten me to this point? You'll understand more or less like how you should build your business. Because I think that's where people get wrong. They start trying all these things and they get frustrated. Well, if you took a step back and go, okay, for me personally, all right. So one of the things for me is I am a very fact-based person, right? So like for me, I'm like, okay, like I need to know really what works. When then I got to ask myself, why does it work? Okay, like what is the system that actually works? And I want to dissect it to go, okay, can I really do this? And I think that's what a lot of agents in the beginning, they don't do that. They just start implementing, start taking what people tell them to do and start throwing it in. But when your internal system doesn't operate, like doesn't match up with what you're being told, it doesn't matter how much more information you get, it's never going to work. So I think the biggest thing is just agents to really, and it sounds weird to say because it's definitely not talked about, and that's why I do what I do and why I'm focused on it, is because when you actually have an understanding of how you operate, you could then use those pieces to go, okay, that system's never going to work for me. I'm more this type of a person. So how do I fit that into who I am to be successful? You're not trying to build what someone else did. You're trying to build yourself and what you can do. And I think that's really one of the biggest things is they just don't take the time to do that. They try to do all these different things at one time, but it just doesn't work when you do that.
And Michael, I don't know if you've read the book, and I know most of us have, the Gap and the Gain, right? And
Ooh,
it's
love that.
about measuring yourself against yourself versus measuring against everybody else in the mastermind, the conference, or whatever
Yeah,
training that they're going to, or just matching themselves up in that market, right?
yeah,
So it's figuring out, to your point, that internal part, right? That internal part inside your brain to figure out it's the mindset first.
yeah,
And we're both coaches here, right? It's the mindset first that we want to ensure that the agent understands before we implement and be able to put in those specific systems. Would you agree with that?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we all, if we sat down, you'd have a general idea of how you operate. If you just, I think, just took a little bit of time to sit down. Yeah, and I think that's a starting point, because it really, I mean, everything, if you think about, so one of the things I've done is, throughout the last, I'd say 20 plus years, is I study high performers. I spent
Mhm.
over 25,000 hours studying high performance people. And I wanted to know, like, what made them so special? Like, what made them different? And it was really, we talk about mindset, but what is mindset? Really, mindset is just understanding how you operate and how you could use how you operate effectively to get where you want to go in life.
Yeah.
And everyone's mind works differently. And that's why for me, is really fascinating to study these people because everyone has a different story. And I think one of the best examples of this is, I'm sure you know Tom Brady, right? Like everyone knows
Mhm.
Tom Brady. My favorite thing is to show people a picture of Tom Brady at the combine before we got drafted. Have you ever seen that photo, Tim? Where he's in his blue shorts. He's got like
Yeah.
a dad bod, right? Like, I mean, you
Yeah.
look at this guy and you go, there's no chance in hell that dude does what he does. But he did. And that blew my mind. Like, how did he do this? And it really did came down to his mindset and understanding like how to operate, what he needed to do. And when you figure that type of stuff out, the rest really does fall into place because once you understand how you operate, now you know what pieces you need to add and what pieces should not be there. And it's
Yeah.
easier to kind of funnel out the crap that's just going to waste your time, and you build this like operation system that is just, it could take on anything. And that's, our industry is full of so many challenges every day, and clients and transactions and the market. And if you don't know how to operate yourself optimally, like that stuff's going to kick your ass really hard, and it's going to be tough
Yeah.
to recover a lot of times, especially if you don't know how to operate.
100%, like figuring that out. And I think that's the thing, to your point, that just accelerates, right? And going back to what you had said earlier, when your mom walked into that room and got in your face, basically,
Yeah, yeah,
and that just fired you up, right? That was you. You're like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. I can do
right.
this. That was your motivation. That was the thing that just pushed you through, right? Alex Hormozy says, and I see it all the time in his stuff. He's like, the reason that I didn't fail is because I refused to quit. He had the motivation, he had that thing behind him.
Yep.
So it's all that mindset. I wouldn't say necessarily motivation, because motivation's temporary, but what is that thing? What is that thing that drives you? Understanding how to push that. Oh man, that's awesome.
Hey, quick break. I believe the best agents in this industry have been sold a lie. That being great at this job means losing everything else to do it. Nobody ever told you that was a choice, not a requirement. The Freedom Agent is a coaching platform and virtual assistant connection company built for agents who want to keep their production and actually get their time back. If you're ready to build that system with a coach beside you or just need your first trained VA in place, that's exactly what we do. Check us out at freedomagent.net. All right, back at it.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with some harder questions. You all right? You ready?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm up for a
Let's do
challenge.
it. Of this business, and you can use real estate, you can use your coaching. What is the part of this that wears on you the most? And what are you doing about it?
I think the biggest thing I think wears on me the most is when I see agents who really want to produce. I think there's I know our industry kind of gets a bad rep with, how consumers see agents. And a lot of that has to do with just because obviously it's easy to get a license. There are a lot of part-time agents. It's a huge financial decision and emotional decision. And so obviously we've not really held up our end of the bargain, I would say, in some aspects. And, but there's also really good agents, people who want to use real estate to create that life that they envision for themselves. And whether that's freedom or it's a financial thing or it's spending more time with family, whatever it is. And what kills me, and I owned a brokerage for almost a decade, and I saw this because what frustrates me and kind of gets me inside is that you see these really good agents, but they're so lost and they just don't know what to do. And they start trying a bunch of different things. And I think that's where, we resort to as humans, especially when we're motivated. Like you said, motivated earlier. I actually don't believe in motivation. I'm with you. I think it's really finding what's truly inside you that is important and persevering till you get it, and then I think that's one of the most important things. And there's a lot of people who look at real estate as that opportunity to build that life that they want. And they come in and everyone's comes in so excited. And then they just get beat down and beat down and beat down. And they don't know what to do, whether it's they don't have the right systems or they're in a bad office or they join a bad team or they're overloaded or, they have one bad client and all of a sudden they feel like they're the worst real estate agents ever. And I saw this as a brokerage owner and I see this in coaching and I'm just like, there's just, my heart hurts for them, truthfully, because I'm just like, you have all this potential, you know what you want in life, but you just don't have a way, you don't understand how to get it. And I think that's just tough, like in any industry, when you are you go in and you have all these great intentions, but you come in and you don't know what the hell to do. You don't understand how to operate. Your business falls apart, deals fall apart, and then you just end up leaving, with your tail between your legs and you go try something else. And I think that's one of the hardest parts because I've met some really, really good people in this industry. I met them and I've not coached these people, but I'm just saying throughout my career, I've met them and I'm like, wow, this person is awesome. They're going to be a fantastic agent. And then I run into them or I see them on social media and they're gone and they're doing something else. And I'm just like, how is that possible? They had everything lined up. They had the reason why they were really sincere about wanting to help people. They understood what they wanted in life, yet they're gone. And I think that to me is just a hard thing to see because this is real estate's an opportunity. And you see how it benefits people's lives when it works for them, but it just doesn't always work for people. And I think that's hard for me to see.
Yeah, it is tough. We see so much potential, right? And even in the book that I wrote, and the dedication was to those agents specifically the ones I absolutely loved working with, but got burnt out and left the industry because they couldn't
Yeah.
handle it anymore, right? They didn't see what the next picture was. They didn't have the right guidance. So
Yeah.
tell me, Michael, what are you doing about that?
So I take with me and my coaching, I take a completely different approach than most agents because I like a lot of people, like kind of focus on the outcomes and stuff like that. I focus on, what is it that's preventing them from those outcomes happening, right? Because more leads and all that isn't going to fix a problem if someone's not following up on them, right?
Amen.
So what I've kind of done is and what I've kind of I actually kind of recognize a few patterns. And what I've kind of done is I kind of start with these patterns, right? Like there's 5 patterns I recognize. It's avoidance, it's confidence, overthinking, pressure, and identity. And they're not problems, but what I've identified these is like they're almost like clues that something deeper is driving the behavior of why these are like why they're not operating effectively. And what I do is like it's not to change the real estate agent. I think that's like I don't want to change someone. I think people are who they are. But what I do is basically show them like, look, there might be a better model for you that you're not realizing. And that's kind of what I do is I help them understand themselves so that they can find a better model for them. Cause they might be doing okay and it might be fine, but they're not able to get to that point. And whatever that is in the future or whatever those goals or whatever you want to call them. So what I do is I really kind of help them understand themselves better. Like, okay, like why can't you stay consistent? Well, what belief is happening below the surface that's stopping you from being consistent? Like what's the behavior? That's what I want and that's what I study.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's fascinating to me because once you understand that, well then the outcomes take care of themselves. But everyone's so outcome driven that they're really forgetting that like if you don't do that stuff, you don't figure that stuff out, like none of that's ever going to make any difference. You're never going to get there. So that's where my work really is focused on.
No, that's awesome. I love that too. There's I think the industry as a whole doesn't do a very good job of telling agents the different ways that they can continue to progress through their year. Because you probably agree with me that the initial 2-3 years of any real estate, even if they're successful, it has a ceiling. You could
Yeah.
only grind so much, right? What is the next step to get there? But is that right for you? And what does that look
Right.
like? That's the same thing that I coach over on my side too. Is hey, once you hit a certain point, the grind never works anymore. You need an upgraded system.
Yeah.
Is just one of those routes. So no, that's amazing. I love hearing that. Let me ask you this question again. Love asking a coach this question. If you could give one piece of advice for somebody doing maybe 3-6 million right now, and they're trying to get to that next level, what would
Yeah.
that be?
I would say look at everything you're doing and really see what is working and what isn't. Take a step back, take the 10,000-foot view, take yourself out of the equation and look at all your stuff and go, okay, is what do I have in place right now honestly going to get me to, let's say, 10 million or whatever, right? Like, if someone took an honest step back and looked at their stuff, they're going to realize that it's not. Because if it did, you would be there already. So I think what I suggest to people is look for a better model, right? So whatever you're doing, look for a better model that is going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And I'll give you a great example of this in my own personal experience, my own personal life, right?
Great.
So,
Yeah.
and this is outside of real estate, but I grew up playing hockey, right? I was an athlete. I played hockey. I played Division I college club hockey, not the top tier, but
Okay.
I was up there. I played junior hockey, so I had trainers, I had nutritionists, and they would always tell me, you got to eat meat. You got to, your cheeses, your dairies, like that's, you got to watch the carbs unless you're got a game coming up. Like I had all these nutritionists telling me this. And so that was fed into my brain forever. So that's after college. that's how I ate. I
Yeah.
was just like, eating like this. And what I've noticed myself, and this is just me personally, so I'm not judging anyone and their diets, right? But I had always
Yeah.
noticed that like I would start getting tired later in the day. Like, why am I dragging around 2 or 3 o'clock? Like, I never understood it, but I'm like, I'm eating right. I'm doing all the things I was told I was supposed to do. And then one day, I watched a documentary called The Game Changers. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. It's a super fascinating documentary, but the long and short of it is that what I discovered was that, and again, not judging anyone's eating habits or diets, but for me, what I discovered was that the human body is actually not designed to process meat and process dairy. Like if you look at a carnivore, their stomach is shorter, ours is longer. If you look at our teeth, these are not teeth of carnivores, right? So like I started researching and finding all these athletes, these people whose literally their whole livelihood relies on their body, have moved away from the meats and dairies, and some of them are vegan and whatnot. But like I started going like, okay. And then when I did my research, I realized that's a better model for me. Because if I want to be able to like, all right, so me and you are talking right now, I'm in Chicago, it's 10:30, right?
Yep.
Easy to have energy at 10:30 in the morning. I got my coffee, I got, you get a good night's sleep. But 2 or 3 o'clock, if I'm coaching a client and I'm falling asleep because I don't have that energy, I can't like focus. It's not just energy, it's focus. It's not going to work. I'm not going to actually be able to help those people. So I'm always looking for, how do I take the system I have now and how do I make that model better? Right. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to change my diet. So I did my research, put a plan in place, changed my diet. And for the last 5+ years, I've been a pescatarian. For me at least, I have no crash in the afternoon. I'm energy all day long.
Yeah.
And I feel better, my skin's better, like all this other stuff. I mean, you go do your own research, but it's just the point of it is with an agent who's at that 3 to 5 million mark, if you take a look at your business and go, okay, how do I optimize this better? Where is there a better model for all of this stuff? And if you do this and your mindset is based on, I'm always trying to find a better model, you're going to find better models. You're going to find more efficient stuff. And yeah, it's not like you don't just take someone else's model and put it as your own, but be curious. Like, okay, what is that agent doing? And can I replicate that with who I am in my business? Or can I take pieces of it? Because you don't have to take the whole model. You could just take one small thing they're doing. And you go, okay, it works for them. I'm going to give it a shot, right? Because it still fits who they are. And that's the biggest thing is when you are always looking for a better model, you're always making yourself better. And if you keep doing this, it compounds over time and you're going to build this machine that is going to get you to that, whatever that, let's say 7 to 10, million, if that's what you're going for. That's what I would suggest.
No, I love that, man. That's perfect. That's absolutely gold right there. All right. So if people want to reach out to you, they want to know a little bit about your coaching or maybe send real estate referrals, how can people find you, Michael?
Easiest way to find me is just my website, just michaelopyd.com. I'm obviously on socials, just Michael Opyd, just MICHAELOPYD, pretty much everywhere, and there's one thing I definitely want to mention too. Like if people are curious about, I mentioned those 5 blocks earlier. If you're curious about that, there's this really cool tool I developed that I think will help people understand themselves a little bit better. It's totally free, takes less than 2 minutes. You just go to michaelopyd.com/start and it will help you identify actually those 5 blocks, like what might be going on internally. That's always something I suggest to people. Just even if it just helps you kind of just understand yourself a little bit better, it's never a bad thing. So that's how you find me.
Oh, I love that. That's a tool. I might even go check that out.
Yeah, dude. I'd be curious. I'd love to hear your feedback, Tim, and curious where you fall on in those 5.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, I'll say, Michael, thank you so much, man. It was awesome having you here on the show today. I really do love the mindset learning that there are different models for different people that we were able to come up with. Where you were going through those specific things, the biggest thing that stood out to me, there's got to be a better model, right? And I love the R&D, right? We call it rip off and duplicate.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Right.
it. I love that.
Right.
I'm going to have to steal that, dude.
Yeah. So that's what we have for those. I think that a lot of agents that are listening here are really going to get a lot from that. And for the rest of you guys that are on here, again, you can always, if you want to know more about the Freedom Agent, you can also check out the book. It was an Amazon bestseller back in December of last year in real estate. You guys can check that out on Amazon and listen to it, read it, whatever you guys need. Also, if you want to check out our website too at thefreedomagent.net. We all have weekly webinars if you want to know a little bit about our system, because it may just be down the line, just like Michael was saying, of something that you may want to implement part of or entirely in your business. So, Michael, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate you being here for this episode of the Freedom Agent Podcast. If you're serious about scaling your business without working nonstop, check out the free resources, the webinar, and the Freedom Agent book below. We'll see you in our next episode.